So as you open up your books to page 44, take a look at just the color of the tabs on the top and the bottom. You might call that turquoise. You might call that a teal. You might call it aquamarine, right? You might like it or not. But what that does is it indicates that we are approaching a new task. And our task today is going to be active listening and presenting ideas. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you the purpose. Today we're going to listen to conversations. We're going to take notes. We're going to go through some grammar points. We're going to use our productive partners. We'll be doing echo reading. We'll be using response frames. And at the end of this unit, you will write an opinion paragraph. Do you remember the prompt from the beginning of the unit, right? What are the benefits and the challenges of keeping and maintaining, preserving your native language? So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let's get this started. Okay. The first thing that I want you to do is read the instructions. And again, anytime that you are starting an activity or you're about to take an assessment, what you want to do is read all of the directions. Sayla, you need your book, sweetie. We're on page 44. Okay, if I look around, everybody's got that book open. Here we go. All right. Does anybody need something to write with before we get going? Everybody's got the tools they need, their workbooks, something to write with. Fantastic. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, like I said previously, today we are going to listen to a conversation and then we're going to take some notes. But we're going to scaffold it, which means that the first time we listen, I don't want you to have any distractions. So speaking of distractions, if you are wearing any earbuds, even if your device is off, I want you to take them out during the listening section. We're practicing for the Azella, and we're going to practice the way we're going to play so that we perform at our best. You can't wear your earbuds when you're taking the Azella, so let's make sure that you don't have them in your ears now so that you can listen to the conversation. The first time, that's the only task. Just listen. The second time, I'm going to direct your attention to specific goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and put on our listening in the downloads. Here we go. Okay, so once again, first time through, please just listen.
Good morning, Abu. You look upset. What's wrong?
Oh, hi, Miss Amon. Yeah, I'm not feeling too happy this morning.
Why not?
Even though I have been in this country for many years now, I really miss my home country today.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there something specific that you miss?
I miss being somewhere where everybody speaks my family's language. Even though I speak English, sometimes it's difficult for me to communicate. There are some things that are easier to say in my other language.
It makes sense why you would feel this way. Communication is very important. If you feel like sometimes you can't communicate exactly what you want to say, of course you are going to feel sad.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Sad. I wish more people in my community and at school spoke my family's language.
Is there anything that I can do to help or support you?
Could you maybe learn some words in my language? It would be really fun to talk to you in my home language.
Of course, I would love to. I'll start learning some words this afternoon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the first time we listened. We didn't have any interruptions. The second time that we listen, we have a new purpose. This time we will listen and we will take notes on two things: who is speaking and what they are talking about. So go to page 44 and go up to your response frame. And I want you underneath the box who is speaking to put a number 1 in a line, number 2 in a line. Okay, for this second time, I want you to listen for their names. Listen for their names. We'll check and see what names you write down when we are done. Ignore the distractions in the hall. All right, here we go. We're listening for names.
Good morning, Abu. You look upset. What's wrong?
Oh, hi, Miss Amon. Yeah, I'm not feeling too happy this morning.
Why not?
Even though I have been in this country for many years now, I really miss my home country today.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there something specific that you miss?
I miss being somewhere where everybody speaks my family's language. Even though I speak English, sometimes it's difficult for me to communicate. There are some things that are easier to say in my other language.
It makes sense why you would feel this way. Communication is very important. If you feel like sometimes you can't communicate exactly what you want to say, of course you are going to feel sad.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Sad. I wish more people in my community and at school spoke my family's language.
Is there anything that I can do to help or support you?
Could you maybe learn some words in my language? It would be really fun to talk to you in my home language.
Of course, I would love to. I'll start learning some words this afternoon.
That was the second time. So the first time we just listened without interruption. This time I asked you to listen for names. Listen for names. Remember when we're doing language launch, if I write it in blue, you write it too. Do you have Abu? It rhymes. Isn't that true? Sorry, I can't help it. But Abu is the voice of the young person, A-B-U. Remember, it's a proper noun, so use a capital letter. And then the teacher is Ms. Aman. Ms. Aman. And that is spelled A-M-A-N. Ms. Aman. So the third and final time, you're going to actively focus your listening to answer the question, what are they talking about? Go ahead and put down 1 and 2 in your response frame, because as you listen for the third and final time, we are going to ask you to write 2 complete sentences about what they are talking about. Any questions before we listen for the third and final time to our passage? Fantastic. Your goal, 2 complete sentences. What are they talking about?
Good morning, Abu. You look upset. What's wrong?
Oh, hi, Miss Amon. Yeah, I'm not feeling too happy this morning.
Why not?
Even though I have been in this country for many years now, I really miss my home country today.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there something specific that you miss?
I miss being somewhere where everybody speaks my family's language. Even though I speak English, sometimes it's difficult for me to communicate. There are some things that are easier to say in my other language.
It makes sense why you would feel this way. Communication is very important. If you feel like sometimes you can't communicate exactly what you want to say, of course you are going to feel sad.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Sad. I wish more people in my community and at school spoke my family's language.
Is there anything that I can do to help or support you?
Could you maybe learn some words in my language? It would be really fun to talk to you in my home language.
Of course, I would love to. I'll start learning some words this afternoon.
So, remember with the colors for language launch, if I write it in blue, you write it down too. If I put it in black, well, Jack, we can share it. I would like you to think of your own ideas, but if you are stuck, we're about modeling and using precise words, strong words, and academic language. So we're practicing nonetheless. So if you look at number 1, I wrote down, Abu tells Ms. Aman that he wishes more people in his community spoke his language. If you have an idea like that and you write it in your own way of expressing, see if you can change some of your everyday words to some precise academic words. And don't forget to write one more thing. I'm going to write about Ms. Aman. Ms. Aman tells Abu that she will learn words in his language. Please take a minute and make sure that you have 2 complete sentences summarizing what they are talking about. Let's think about our partnering today. When we go into productive partners, I'm going to ask for Dawa to work with Abu today. And when we go into productive partners, I'm going to ask Melissa to work with Moses. And Moses, you can come this way. And if you take a look, if you're partner A, you're closest to the window. And if you are partner B, you are the closest to the door. So what I would like for you to do right now is I would like you to go to your partner and I would like you to take a moment to work on number 1 and number 2, the comprehension questions. So go ahead, and if you are Dawa, head over to Abu. If you're Moises, head over to Melissa. And then you might want to stay there so you don't have to move back and forth. Okay? You have 3 minutes. I'm going to put up a timer for you and your partner to discuss numbers 1 and 2. What is Abu's problem? And how will Ms. Aman help Abu? So you're answering 1 and 2 together. Do you agree? Okay. What did you think of? Well, I thought of this. Can we agree on this answer? So we're working on cooperation and communication. Oh yeah, on the day.
You want to do that one?
About 50 seconds left. A partners, be ready. As we count it down, I would like all of the A partners to stand up. Partner A, you're closest to the window in your duo. Stand up, A partners. A partners, right now you're standing reporters. You're going to sit down when I read the answer choice that you and your partner mutually agreed upon. So the question is, what is Abu's problem? If you and your partner answered A, he did not do well on a test, be seated. If you and your partner answered B, he misses his family, be seated. Glorious, glorious. You might want to give your partner a little elbow or a fist bump because the correct answer is C. You're all standing because you chose that his problem is it is difficult to communicate. Please be seated, A's. Well done. Standing reporters. You know what's coming next? B's. Please rise if you are the B partner. So I'd like you to take a seat when you hear the choice that you and your partner mutually agreed upon. The question is, how will Ms. Aman help Abu? If you and your partner answered A, she will teach him more English. Be seated. If you and your partner decided the best answer is B, she will learn words in his language. Be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, well done with your questions. Now, on your own, take a look at number 3. One question I have for Abu is, what words should Miss Aman learn in Abu's language? Salud.
Thank you.
I want you to think of a question, your very own question that you have for Abu. It could be anything. Where he's from, how old he is, what his native language is, what his favorite color is. But please write down in a complete sentence one question that you have for Abu in the box on your response frame on page 44. If you are a fast finisher, I want you to start looking at the map and the table at the bottom of the page. Fast finishers. Thank you. Thank you. Sarah. But thank you for that. I know, but what did I say if you're a fast finisher? Hi. To look at the map and the table. How are you? Jelani's here, Alma's here. All righty. Mail for Miss Alma. Miss Jelani. Thanks, sir. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to switch what our learning objective is. Before we were listening to a conversation, taking notes. Now we're going to listen to a presentation. We're going to look at a map. And at the end, we'll be closing in a summary with our response frame. And we'll be doing some closed reading as well. But first of all, take a look at this map. It probably looks a little familiar. It's come up in Unit 2. Remember, the whole guiding question for Unit 2 is, what are the benefits and challenges of maintaining your native language. Yesterday, we took a look at Common Lit. We read an article about the Navajo code talkers, and we looked at the legacy that they left to the world by preserving their native language, because neither the Germans nor the Japanese could decode their language. So we have a lot of gratitude to show to the Navajo for preserving and maintaining their native language and then using it to end a war and promote peace, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the world in which we live. Many of you come from some of these places in the world, okay? But before we go there, let's echo read our key terms. So you know how to echo read. I go, you go, everybody, let's go. Dominant, endangered, indigenous, language, maintain, speaker. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to listen to a presentation while you look at this map, and then we're going to complete a summary about what you hear. Let me cue up our next clip.
All across the world, people speak many different languages. This map shows how many languages there are in the world and where each language comes from. Each dot represents one language. The color of the dot shows which region the language comes from. For example, a purple dot means that the language comes from Asia. Some of the languages on this map are dominant. Dominant languages like English, Chinese, Hindi, and Spanish are common languages that many millions of people speak. But other languages are less common. For example, indigenous languages or native or tribal languages do not have as many speakers as dominant languages. Languages without many speakers are in danger. This means that they're in trouble and they might die or disappear. Endangered languages have less than 1,000 speakers remaining. However, some people are fighting to maintain endangered languages. For example, some groups of people work hard to teach endangered languages to younger generations. They want to make sure none of the dots on this map go away.
So, ladies and gentlemen, again, all of our presentation supports our prompt about whether there are benefits and challenges to maintaining our native language. So, let's take a look at this summary. Let's use our precise academic words. If you will, let's mark it up first, okay? The first sentence, let's label it topic sentence. It's going to be the first one to respond to the prompt. It lets whoever is looking at your paper, reading your paper, or grading your paper, it lets them see a connection. You understand the prompt, and in your topic sentence, you're addressing that, okay? Now, we know there's a pattern to academic writing, and we know that we use transitions. So will you please find for example and label that transition? Remember, we set it off with a comma. Later on in today's lesson, we're going to be using a comma differently. We're going to be using a comma to combine two sentences into one. But right now, we're using a comma to set off a transition. And again, when you're reading into a microphone for the Azella assessment, remember that the comma also means a natural pause. So you wouldn't read, for example, languages do not have many, for example, languages. Okay, so make sure that when you are modeling on the Azella, that you know how to read aloud using punctuation as your cue for rhythm and for pause. So we've got our transition for example, and then that's going to be followed by an example sentence. So put your E out. We've got to give lots of examples, right? We've got to elaborate. We've got to extend. Short answers are not going to make you proficient. You're going to be stuck in intermediate forever. Okay, you've got to give examples. You've got to elaborate. You've got to extend. And you've got to give reasons and results. So let's find the next transition as a result, comma, and let's label that this is going to be for results and reasons. If you just follow the pattern of academic writing and you use precise words, you will be proficient. So now, take a look at what we want first. Plural noun. That means we need more than one. Let's throw down languages in the plural. When we're done with this summary, you are going to do an oral close with it. So if I don't see you writing down the words, you're not going to be able to do the oral close. And at the end of the unit, when you write your own opinion paragraph, all of this modeling should hopefully connect so that you can do it on your own. The map shows that there are thousands of languages that people speak all over the world. Some languages we need an adjective. We need an adjective that means the most common. We've been using dominant not because you're the big dominant person, but because it's the most common. So let's use dominant for the adjective. Some languages are dominant, the most commonly spoken language, and others are not. We've got a preview there. See, we've got two sentences and we've combined them with a comma and a conjunction. That's where we're headed. We're scaffolding to our goal. They're giving us little sneak peeks, little trailers. All right, so we know that some languages are dominant and others are not. For example, another word from our list for native starts with an I, indigenous. Good job. Pay attention to correct spelling for the word indigenous. For example, indigenous languages do not have as many speakers. Good job. So we come to the last sentence. It's our conclusion of our summary, and we have our transition as a result. We know that we're going to need an adjective. As a result, these languages are endangered. You've got it. Do you remember he said when there's less than a certain number of speakers, the language is endangered? Do you remember what number that is? It was hard, and I didn't tell you to listen for it, but he said if there's less than, and we're going to talk about than versus then, but if there's less than 1,000 speakers, then it is endangered. All right, so however is a transition. Some people are fighting to maintain these languages. So I told you guys I used to teach Spanish. And just yesterday, a friend of mine who teaches French, when she retired, she gave me all of her materials to teach languages. And she sent me a message last night. The subject was froggy. And she said, do you still have the froggy lesson that I gave you? She said, I'm teaching my grandchildren my language. And if you're not using it, I'd love to have it back. So I went home last night. I went into the garage. And, where's the frog? Where's the frog? And I found the box of little Froggy se viste, right? Froggy gets dressed. And I wrote to her this morning, yes, I have Froggy. It is a beautiful legacy that you are passing down your native language to your grandchildren. And so I just thought when real life connects with what's going in class, I have to share that. And we've talked about you guys and in your future, whether you are parents, aunts and uncles, whether you are foster parents, guardians, whether you are teachers, the value of your native language, maintaining it and passing it down to future generations. I hope that you will never let your language have less than 1,000 speakers and become endangered, right? Many of you defended it as part of your identity, right? And just like we heard Abu, sometimes you just want to be surrounded by people who speak your primary language, the first language that you heard by the people who nurtured you and loved you. So let's continue. I'm going to I'm going to read, you're going to do fluency close. So when I stop, fill in the pause with the precise word. Here we go, everybody together. The map shows that there are thousands of that people speak all over the world. Some languages are and others are not. For example, languages do not have as many. As a result, these languages are. However, some people are fighting to these languages. Well done, everybody. Thank you very much. Let's flip it over and continue on page 45. All right. Some of you were born in North America. Some of you are born in Central America. I don't think I have anyone in this class born in South America, but I do have someone born out in the Caribbean. I also know that I have some students who were born on the continent of Africa, some students who were also born on the continent of Asia. I don't have any students right now who were born in Europe. And in this class, I don't think I have any Pacific Islanders, Samoans, Tongans, Australian, New Zealanders, Kiwis. So most of us are from the Americas, from Africa, and from Asia. So take a look at that map again. And now go to not only where you were born, go to your ancestral homeland. Where were your grandparents and your great-grandparents born? Right? Were they born in the Americas, North, Central, South America? Were they born on the continent of Africa? What about Asia? And then let's look at the number of languages spoken by region. Ladies and gentlemen, how many different languages are spoken on the continent of Africa? Yes, 2,140. Some of you said 2,140, and that's fine. But in academic language, that comma is there for a reason. We're going to say the biggest number, followed by everything else, 2,140. What about the Americas, where we are right now? How many languages are spoken in the Americas? You've got it. What about Asia? How many languages are spoken in Asia? Even more than on the continent of Africa, right? What happens when we go down into the Pacific around Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea? How many languages? Yes. And then my grandfather, Giovanni Gerace, was born down here. And he came around and landed in New York. But in my ancestral homeland of Europe, there's only 290 languages. Not a lot of linguistic diversity, right? When you compare it to the other places in the world. So do you understand when you meet somebody from Asia, they're all not going to speak the same language? If you meet somebody and they say they're from the continent of Africa, depending on the country where they live, the city where they live, right? It all depends on what language they're going to speak. So with that in mind, we're going to use this map and this table, plus these response frames, to answer some questions about this data. This is informational text. Luca, you know what to do with that phone. This could come up in your social studies class. This could come up when you test out of ELD and you're in regular English class. This can also come up in government and economics class, geography class. So this is not something that's only going to happen in our class, but understanding maps, reading tables, and summarizing happens in every class you're going to take. And then we're going to look at a claim. So let's look at number 1. It says, summarize what the map and the table show in a complete sentence. What do the map and the table show? If you get stuck, look at titles and look at notes. Okay? Look what's under the map. There's a guide, right? Look at the name of the table. There's a guide. So many times you're taking a test and you sit there and you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. Read what's on the page. Because many times they're giving you words to use right there. So please answer number 1. The map and the table show. What do they show? If you know what they show, but you just don't know how to write it, I'm going to put an example. The map and table show the number of different languages people speak in each region. Yours doesn't have to be word for word. You can write it in your own. But if you're stuck, we can share the black. If you're taking the Azella, and you just stop right there, the number of different languages people speak, that's like a C answer. It's not complete. But if you add in each region, now you've got an A, because now you've given a complete answer, right? It's elaborate, and it's got examples. So please don't stop with 3 or 4 words. Make sure it's a complete thought. Make sure you are demonstrating proficiency. Look what I can do with this language, because I'm so bilingual. And then I want you to circle the claim. I'm going to ask you to echo read the claim. Everybody together, let's echo read the claim. People speak more languages in Europe than in Africa. One more time louder. People speak more languages in Europe than in Africa. Perfect. Take a look over here. I can't tell you how many of my friends and colleagues, even my loved ones, are constantly confusing than and then. And I can understand for a second language learner, sometimes it's hard to even hear the one vowel letter difference. But I want you guys to use it correctly from here on out. Okay? So let's look at than. Than is like our example. Okay? More languages in Europe than in Africa. So when we're comparing, we're using this for comparison. We're going to use than. Yesterday, when we read our article about the code talkers, it went in sequential order. First, this happened, and then next, this happened. Then, this happened, and finally, that happened. So when we are using it as a transition in our writing, when we're using it to sequence the events, that's called chronological order. That's when we're going to use then. Okay? Then. So, see, right? Exactly, I understand. And so they're saying that they always thought it was the exact same word. And many people who are born in the U.S. speak only English and have college degrees also think it's the same word. It's not going to change your life, but it is going to raise your Azella score. These are the little things. All of my students who are out there, and your writing score is 248 out of 250. So many of you are 2 points away in writing from proficiency. You've already passed listening, you've passed speaking, and you've passed reading. These tiny little grammar tips, they can make the difference. That can be the 2 points. Okay, that can be the 2 points. So you know that's the end of A lunch. Let's continue, ladies and gentlemen. One thing that we like to do on the ACT that all of our juniors who are sitting here are going to take next semester. You're going to take it during the day. The school's going to pay for it. That is a college entrance exam. And when you get your result, it's going to tell you this child is on track to be successful in college, or it will say yes for reading, but maybe no for math. It's a lot of data. And some of you are going to score high enough to get in to college junior year on your ACT. You'll also start getting scholarships based on that score. And then you're going to put down your 3 top colleges. So go into the test knowing, hey, maybe I want to go to Flagstaff. Maybe I want to go to New York. Maybe I want to go to Texas. And you can put those schools and you'll get some information. If you don't like the score, you can retake it as many times as you need after that. But it's a gift that our district gives to all juniors. It doesn't happen in other districts. You don't have to find the test on your own, pay for it on your own, go to a school on a Saturday that you don't know, find a classroom and be with strangers. Not for you, because Phoenix Union has love with your learning. And so take advantage this spring. Do your best on not only the Azella for everybody, but our juniors. Do your best on the ACT, okay? You guys always rock it with vocabulary because if you're bilingual, you usually know the roots of more than one language, especially our Spanish speakers, our French speakers. You've got Latin roots. All medicine and science words have Latin roots also. You guys are BOGOs. You guys are worth twice as much as a monolingual person, in my opinion. All right, so let's look. People speak more languages in Europe than in Africa. First of all, is that accurate? All right, so are we going to write the map and table support this claim or do not support this claim? What do y'all think? No. Correct. Wait time is hard for me. But yes, no, it doesn't support. So we're going to use the do not support. The map and table do not support this claim, right? That's a fancy way of saying true and false, right? Is this true? No, it does not support the claim, right? We're always looking for ways to elevate with academic vocabulary, smart words, well chosen, precise. You've got the everyday belt, right? Your vernacular language. You can go out there at lunch, you can order lunch, you can talk to people, you can work on homework with people, you can ask them to dance, you can watch a movie together. All of that English language, you guys have. You're intermediate 3-4. Okay? All we need to do sometimes is replace our everyday words, and instead of saying that is false, oh no, the data does not support the claim. Right? Does that sound like science class? Something's not supported? Does it sound like some of your other classes? It should. Because academic language, it doesn't matter what class you're in. It's in every class. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's close it out. One piece of evidence is that the map shows that there are more dots for languages spoken in Africa than, use the right form, there are in Europe. All right? So again, one piece of evidence is that the map shows that there are more dots for languages spoken in Africa than there are in Europe. So write it down, correct spelling, punctuation, right? We're going to perform the way we practice. Check your than, not then, but than. Sorry. Handwriting's getting messy. Hey, mail. I love your shirt. And it's for a boot this time, mail. Okay, so far we have completed active listening, and we've also completed the looking at the map and the table and summarizing the information. All of that will be on the Azella. And now let's hit some grammar. So when you're done on page 45, will you please flip it over? I don't know if this is going to make it better or worse. Mejor? Is it that one? ¿Quieres cerrarla un poquito or no te? Okay, no worries. They're all kind of backwards. Will you please read about modal verbs at the top of the next page in the brown shaded box? I won't put it in that spot. It only happens during this class. It must be the sun. Okay, so we're going on to page 46, and you're reading about these modal verbs. Hey, look at the new color. Instead of having that pretty teal or turquoise or aquamarine, we're now on green. And instead of doing effective listening practices, now we're going to start to work on academic writing. Okay. And remember, for the majority of us, for most of us, this is the only area we have left to pass on the Azella. Okay, so if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. This is the most common area for improvement. And remember, the biggest room in the world is room for improvement. We can all improve. So, let's take a look. I'm on the wrong one. Modal verbs. Okay, first of all, I want you to grab your pen and I want you to underline can, should, and might. Repeat after me. Can, should, might. Can, should, might. Exactly. These are modal verbs. And if we read, writers use modal verbs to tell about actions that are possible or need to happen. Modal verbs never change their form. We're not going to write cans. We're not going to write shoulded. And we're not going to write mighted. Okay, we're going to use them without changing them. Next, they are going to be used with a base verb. And so, you know what? Do me a favor. Circle those. I meant to say circle, and I said underline. Because we're going to underline the raw base verbs. Not really, they're just base verbs. Okay, it takes two. It does take two to get this thing right. Ha! So, I don't know if you guys know that song. It takes two to make a thing go right. When you're working with modal verbs and base verbs, you got to have two to make it out of sight. Sorry, I'm back in the 80s with my rap. But what that means is that when we are using modal verbs with base verbs, you're going to, for example, can is the modal, use is the base. We're not going to change the tense. You know, I use, he uses, you use, she uses, we use, they use. We're not going to conjugate it. We're not going to put any other endings. We're going to keep it solid. They call it in English second language a base verb. In Spanish we call it infinitivo, right? So let's go through in our examples. And now we're going to circle the modal and underline the base. So circle can, underline use. He can use his native language to speak with relatives in another country. Next sentence. Circle the modal should, underline the base verb continue. People should continue to speak their native language. And in our third example, again, would you please circle the modal might, underline the base verb want. Some families might want their children to speak English. Trying some different things here. Is that better? Worse? There, maybe that's a little better. I'm not sure. The last thing we're going to do is go back through and we're going to put MV under modal verbs. So write MV over modal verbs in the example. And we're going to write BV over our base verbs. So can is going to be our modal verb. Use our base verb. Should, always a modal verb. Continue our base verb. Might, modal verb. And want, base verb. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you and your partner to work together. You are going to read the 4 sentences, and then you are going to circle the modal verbs and underline the base verbs. I'm going to put a timer up. Okay, we practice together. Now you practice. I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes. All right? And please identify the modal verbs. You can talk, you can work together, or you can do it and then check with each other. Circle modal, underline base. Are you circling modal and underlining base? Thank you. Circling modal, underlining base. How are you doing?
The second one is
Underlining base. Here, let's go here. All right. Circle should. Underline learn. Circle can.
the third one
Underline
is mine.
speak. Circle might. Underline want. And circle can. And underline learn.
And the first one is should.
Make sure that you have done the activity. Ready? Here we go. Circle should. Underline learn. Circle can. Underline speak. Circle might. Underline want. Circle can. Underline learn. As soon as somebody is, Lupita, when Lupita comes back. She did. She was only going to be here for about 40 minutes. I think she stayed longer than that. We're going to finish just 45 and, or was it 46 and 47? We're going to finish 46 and 47, and then we'll call it. I was walking around. It looks like most of you are finished and accurate. So let's take a look at our modal verbs. Check for, of course, accuracy. And remember autocorrection. If you miss it, you're going to put an X through it. You're going to let your brain see you strike out the wrong answer. and then you're going to put the correct answer so that you take out the wrong data and you replace that file with the accurate response. So for number 1, let's all make sure that we circle should and underline learn. For number 2, let's circle can and underline speak. For number 3, circle might and underline want. And for number 4, circle can, underline learn. For the final activity on page 46, you are going to use 3 words: can, should, and might. So write those on the side, or yeah, this side would work. You're going to use either can, should, or might. So what I want you to do right now is go down to the bottom of page 46, and you are going to complete each sentence with the correct modal verb. Is it can, should, or might?